Our former mayor. Thank you for coming, Rolly, along with county manager, Phil Burdone. Third, we have a future leader of Prescott, I believe, in our midst, Brendan Montoya. And Brandon is with Prescott Area Leadership, and he is shadowing today, so welcome, Brandon. Finally, this is really exciting. We have a group of students from a class called Explorations in Sustainable Community Development at Prescott College. I'd like for you guys to stand so we can recognize you. Wow, nice. Very nice, thank you. These students are in the resident undergraduate program at Prescott College. They are visiting City Hall today, meeting with John Heine to discuss how better to bring citizens into public dialogue about making their community a healthier habitat. Their instructor is Dr. Terrell Schorb, a longtime faculty member at Prescott College. Welcome, Dr. Schorb and students. Happy to have you here.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We're now going to have an invocation led by Reverend Kimball Arnold from St. Luke's Episcopal Church, and remain standing, and Councilman Good will lead us in the pledge.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. We offer prayers for our mayor, members of the city council, and for the various levels of city officials, and we ask that they would have wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, and the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. We pray for the agenda set before them today and for each of their meetings this year. We ask blessings on all who work as first responders, fire, police, and emergency medical personnel for their commitment to our community and the safety of all citizens. We pray for their safety. We offer thanks for the staff and for the time and research they prepare on issues facing the city and for their well-prepared presentations to the City Council. We pray for the generations of brave men and women who secured our liberty and continue to do so. We give them our heartfelt thanks. We give thanks for all who contribute to and support our city. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in pledging allegiance to our great nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's call roll, please.
Mayor Mangarelli?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Here.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Here.
Councilman Lamerson?
Here.
Councilwoman Scholl? Here. Councilman Sischka?
Here.
All are present.
Thank you. I have a couple announcements. Most importantly, we have a city staffer who won an award last week at the Prescott Chamber Luncheon with the Prescott Area Young Professionals. He received a Visionary Award. Please give a hand to Tyler Goodman. We also have speaker cards. We've talked about this in the past, but just as a reminder, we have speaker cards. If you would like to comment on any item on the agenda, please fill out a card for every agenda item and then get that to the Deputy City Clerk, who will get it up here to the City Clerk, and we'll make sure that we get you some time to speak. We do have 3 minutes. And do we have a light on the podium? I just can't see it, maybe.
I do have it right here.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we have a little light system. It might be new for some of you, but anyway, it goes green, yellow with 30 seconds left, and then red when your time is completed. Let's see, no proclamations. We'll go right to presentations of funding the justice system. Who do we have today? Phil? Yes.
Mayor, members of the council, I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you, give you a little update on Yavapai County's funding of the jail. At this time, I wanted to recognize that we have Supervisor Rolly Simmons. Also, we have in the audience with him Captain Jeff Newnham. This is the gentleman who runs the county's jail right now. And those gentlemen are here to assist me with any questions you may have. I'll just give you a brief presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I've provided you a trifold, and I'm just going to use that real quick to go over. The fact of the matter is, 20 years ago, in 1999, this county ran a jail, and it was funded not only by the county, but by cities and towns. You actually paid for the inmates that you put into the jail through some payments back to the county. You reimbursed us. The Board of Supervisors took advantage of legislation allowing a secondary district to form a jail district, and following that, asked the voters to approve a 1/4-cent sales tax to fund construction, maintenance, operation of jails, of the jail in this county. That was in 2000 when it came into effect. That's a 20-year tax, and the reason the board did that, they asked the public to do a 20-year tax so that after 20 years, like many things, we would have to have the board bring it back to the citizens to reevaluate if this is the best method for funding that service. So here we are. We have about 2 years till it sunsets. The reason the County Board of Supervisors is asking the public to look at this in May in an all-mail ballot is because, quite frankly, we need to look at our finances if this goes away. I'll be candid. I work, one of my primary duties with the county is to work on our budget. The jail district budget to operate the county's jail is an $18.1 million budget. $8.8 million is the sales tax. That's 48% of the revenue for that jail and the system that we run. If that goes away, we're going to need a couple years to figure out and work with the board on how we accomplish filling that hole. And that's why, so I've been asked why I suggested the board get this on the ballot soon. It'll take at least 2 cycles of our budget to evaluate and implement a way to fund the jail without the sales tax. So saying that, we have a website, yavapaijail.com. I know that's not very sexy, but it's to the point. And the reality is we're trying to get as much information to the public as possible. This is an all-mail ballot. On this, we've also provided enough information on where citizens can drop off their mail ballot. It'll be mailed to them approximately April 23rd. You'll also have a publicity pamphlet come out to you. And then citizens can turn in the ballot by 7 p.m. May 15th. Some of the things we try to get information out to the public. And I'm going to ask, if the mayor's okay, I'm going to ask Jeff Newnham to come up and talk briefly about some of the programs in the jail, because this gentleman and the sheriff have worked very hard to keep the jail population down and to make sure people don't stay in jail if they don't need to, and try to give them help while they're in there. Captain Newnham?
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you. I'm Jeff Newnham. I am your jail commander. And I like to give kind of a snapshot of what our jail looks like on a day-to-day basis, because most people have no idea. We do have an $18.1 million budget. $8.8 million comes out of the jail district. But our jail, for a population of 230,000 citizens in Yavapai County, Yavapai County is 8,100 square miles, spans from Wickenburg up to the Grand Canyon Caverns, down to Peoria. Part of Peoria is now in Yavapai County. And we have Wickenburg PD, Sedona PD, all these different agencies, including Prescott PD, bringing folks to our jail. Our jail is 644 beds. But with that, 515 of those beds were operational. So what that means is I have to keep 20% of my bed space open for what's called classification. I can't mix females with males. I can't mix your sex offenders with the general pop. So if I have a unit, one unit is for females, 130 females. If I only have 110 females in that unit, I can't put 20 males in that unit as well. So I also have to have space to move for disciplinary reasons. So if I have inmates getting fights, I have to be able to separate them, house them alone until the investigation goes. So that's 20% of the bed space has to remain open. So that brings us down to 515 beds. Our daily population, our average daily population for 2017 was 579. So today, I'm supposed to be historically at about 400 inmates in January. Today, I'm at 523. This summer, we will probably come close to 700 inmates. So that's way over our capacity. Today, I have 56 inmates on the floor. And so that's kind of what we look at as a jail as a whole. But with that budget comes numerous programs like our medical. Everybody that comes into the facility, we have to provide medical for everything. So not only my 200 and so detention officers, I have a medical doctor, a dentist, I have 3 psychologists, a psychiatrist, a special ed teacher, a principal, because we are our own school district, and the teachers that go along with that are programs, inmate services coordinators, and whatnot. So we provide everything an inmate may need, from medical to education and whatnot in between, and we have to do that by law. Well, that costs money. Some of the things that we have looked at, because of our population is so high, we wanted to take a look at who is the population coming in and what we might be able to do with that. Well, what we noticed a couple of years ago is 47 to 53% of our population in our jail has been suffering from some sort of mental health issue or a co-occurring disorder, which means that they have a serious mental illness in addition to some sort of substance abuse addiction. Well, these are the inmates that kept coming back time and time and time again. If you look at the state as a whole and you took every jail in the entire state, we release in the state of Arizona 200,000 inmates a year back into the communities. The recidivism rate for those inmates is 38% statewide. What we looked at is if we could recognize the same population that's coming in and coming back time and time again, and started to come up with a plan on how we might address some of the issues, we wanted to see if we could reduce that recidivism. Because our population is so high, we have a jail that only 515 inmates operationally can be in. We wanted to see if we could link folks to care, deal with the serious mental illness, deal with the substance abuse, and link them to substance abuse programs and whatnot to keep them from coming back. Well, some of the programs in your brochure speak about that. The post-arrest diversion program, the pre-trial diversion programs. Those programs we have been able to fund with grants, not the jail district. We also just got back yesterday from the state legislation to put a bill into this next legislative session for an appropriation for $500,000 for the next 3 years to pay for this reach out program. Well, this program, and many like it, if we are enrolling the inmates in these programs, we've reduced that recidivism from 38% to 19%. So that's huge for us. That has decreased our population by over 100 inmates. If we didn't have some of these programs, you'd see a population today of probably close to 700, which we just can't sustain. I would like to remind, and I know that County Manager Phil Bordone talked about this jail district is not for a new jail. We are not building a new jail. It is just to keep going what we have now. Just to sustain what we have. One of the programs that you'll see also on the brochure is what we call the inmate copay system. A lot of the services that we provide come directly from revenue that we generate from the inmates. So every time that they make a phone call or they do a video visit, it costs them money. Every time they buy commissary for their treats at night, it costs money, and that goes right back into a fund, and every cent of that money goes back to help them with their GED or help them with a substance abuse issue while inside. A lot of people, they look at the jail and they don't realize it's so complex. We serve 53,000 meals a month out of our kitchen because we serve 3 hot meals a day. We dispense 2,000 pills a day out of our pharmacy because of the mental health issues. So all of this is extremely costly, and most of the things that we encounter are mandated federally that we have to do and we have to fund. So that's kind of a snapshot of the system that we operate, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions if you might have them.
Prior to that, if it's okay, if I can have maybe Supervisor Simmons come down, make a few comments, and we'll be over, and I appreciate the time. The last thing I would add is Yavapai County takes seriously the taxes that we put in place. I'm a citizen in this county. Currently, the county funds their general fund with two measures, property tax and state shared sales tax. This county and the Board of Supervisors has been able to keep that property tax rate 80% of what the limit is by law. The board has done that on purpose, trying to keep it as low as possible and not bring it up. And one of the ways they're able to do that is by keeping things like this in place where it can be shared with people that visit our county, our cities, our towns, tourists and others. So with that, I'll leave you with Supervisor Simmons.
Supervisor Simmons, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's good to be home. I'm not used to being on this side of the microphone here, so but let's just cool our acts up here. On the more serious side, I cannot stress enough as to how important this is. All of us in this room, for the sake of the public, deal with our budgets. Stop and visualize over $8 million shortfall in your budget. I don't mind telling you, every single town, city, municipality is going to be affected. Everybody in the county is going to be affected, and we need to drive home the fact that this is not an increase, it's simply extending the tax. So I really plead that you strongly consider backing us on this issue. We have a lot of support out within the community, and it's very, very critical for us at this juncture. I'm real proud of the fact that we just got word out of the valley that Yavapai County is considered the #1 county as far as being fiscally responsible and operated properly and efficiently. We're real proud of that designation. And so with that in mind, we've not been raising taxes. We've been very, very careful. So we feel comfortable in coming to the public and saying, trust us one more time to do this. I hate to use that term, but that's where we're at. So thank you. We really appreciate you giving us this time. And welcome, Mr. Mayor, to your new post.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for the information. It's very helpful. Thanks for being here today. Questions and comments from the council, Councilman Sischka?
Yes, thank you. It's great to see you again, Ro. Hey, I had a question for you. Have you done the financial impact per prisoner that it would cost the cities to jail someone?
Councilman Sischka, we have done some of those studies. Currently, Prescott PD books 12% of all of the bookings that come into the jail. So we have about 10,000 inmates a year coming into the jail, into our intake facility. And so 12% of that comes directly from your police department. In order to, if the jail district went away, you would see a per diem, if you will. We call it a per diem. You would see a booking fee of about $330 per intake, as well as about $130 per day on top of that. That would be costs incurred by the arresting agency. With those monies, that would only bring in about $2 to $3 million a year. If you took every agency in the county, and those per diem rates are only going to make up about $3 million of that 8.8 million. So the rest of that's going to have to come from somewhere else. We do generate about 800,000 in special revenues, such as when someone gets sentenced to DOC, as soon as they're sentenced, DOC has to pick up that charge. If someone's designated an alien, ICE picks up that charge until they come and get them. That brings in about $800,000 a year with those and some other special revenues. But the rest of it would come back to the municipalities and back to the county's general fund.
Thank you.
Councilman Blair?
As we listen to this discussion, it's very important. So as we discuss it in the next couple of weeks, I would look at this council putting together a resolution of support for the jail district if it's so needed. And I think that would show our community how important that is, that we stand behind it. Just a suggestion.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, I just wanted to give a kudos to our county attorney, Sheila Polk, and certainly Sheriff Masher and Matt Force and all that they have done, the Reach Out program, Captain Noonan, thank you for that. It's amazing how much this is going to help us as far as cut down and also help the people that are being assigned to the jail that there's a better way. So thank you for that.
Let's see, Councilman Lamerson.
Thank you. Very similar to my fellow councilman down here on the right. You know, solely because we live in the city of Prescott doesn't dispute the fact we're also Yavapai County residents. Doesn't dispute the fact that the jail is located in our city and that we are the county seat. And that that jail is equally important to me as a city resident as it is to every county resident. So I just want to throw that out there.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. Appreciate it.
Wanted to thank you for the opportunity to come and give you the information. Thank you very much.
You bet. All right. 8B.
Presentation by Fraternal Order of Eagles, Area 3600.
My name is Ray Bills. I'm actually the president of our local area number 3600 here in Prescott. Carrie, I can't remember your last name. Carrie Dye is our madam president on our auxiliary side. Sorry. And we do a lot of work for the community as far as charity contributions. In the last 2.5 years, us as a group have donated close to $60,000 to different charities here in town, and just was asked to come and let you guys know that, I guess. So.
I had asked you to come here specifically to talk about what you were able to do to enable CASA to distribute a lot of bicycles throughout this community for those that couldn't afford bicycles themselves, and for people to hear exactly what the Fraternal Order of the Eagles is, other than a lot of folks have a misperception of what the Eagles is and what we do. In fact, many of the folks don't even know it's a international fraternal and what we do internationally, especially with muscular dystrophy.
Correct. There's actually, it's an international organization. There's actually been presidents of the United States who have been members over the years, dating back to Teddy Roosevelt. The motto of our group really is people helping people. So in December, with the help of Mr. Matt Lewis back here specifically, we raised close to $7,000 for CASA for Kids, so we could just go out and buy them bicycles because they come up short every year. So, and we managed to put that together in about 3 weeks. So, and we only have 279 male members here locally, and how many? I don't know. 175. And 175 ladies. So, of which half of are probably only really active. So, it was quite a bit of money from a small group of people.
Clubs like yours truly make a difference in a city like Prescott. Yeah. And that's why you were asked to come here and talk about it. I didn't know how many you actually got, but thank you very much.
We actually bought close to 100 bicycles with helmets and everything, too. Make sure they're safe while they're out there, too. So, yeah. So, anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, moving on to consent, number 9. Let's see, consent agenda should be posted up here behind me, and you also probably have it on your agenda there if you picked one of those up. Would you like to pull anything from the consent?
I did.
This is 9A, B, or C.
I'm sorry, sir.
We have a couple different consents, so it can be confusing. Anybody on this first consent?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like just to make a comment or have a question answered on 9B.
This is, should we pull this and then do that, or?
If there's just a question.
Question on, okay. Question on 9B. We have somebody with CDBG.
Beauty and the Beast here. I'm
I'm Jerry Jones, and I'm the chairman of the CDBG Advisory Committee for the City of Prescott. And Darla is our administrator for the CDBG Advisory Committee.
Yep. Go ahead.
And the question, please.
My question was on this allocation. We are just voting on awarding this contract. My understanding is the funding has already been approved in your proposal year 2016. Is that correct? So this is not a question of any concerns about the allocation, just a decision on awarding this roof repair contract. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That's all I had. Thanks.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, that's Councilman. Okay. Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items 9A through 9C.
Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Bill, you get to.
Councilman Lemerson?
Maintenance,
Blair?
please.
Just hit your no. There you go.
Passes 7-0.
All right, moving on to item 10.
Mayor and council, the item before you is a public hearing and consideration for an acquisition of control for Pizza Hut located at 1231 Iron Springs Road. The application has been determined to be in compliance with the city requirements and being recommended for approval. The application fee has been paid and the application has been posted at the location for the required 20 days. No public comments have been received. Thank you.
Okay, do we have somebody?
No, Mayor, we don't have any here today.
Okay. Then we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Mayor, I move to approve liquor license application number 07130027 for an acquisition of control for a Series 7 beer and wine liquor license for Pizza Hut located at 1231 Iron Springs Road.
Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right, moving on to item 11.
Item A, adopt ordinance number 5065-1605, amending Title V, Chapter 5-6, Alarm Systems, adding a severance clause and providing for penalties. Item B, adopt ordinance number 5059-1599, replacing City Code Title 13, Chapter 13-1, floodplain regulations with a new City of Prescott Floodplain Management Code, providing for penalties and allowing for severability. Adopt resolution number 4419-1628, declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the city clerk and entitled City of Prescott Floodplain Management Code dated January 2018. Item C, adopt ordinance number 5058-1598, authorizing the acceptance of Yavapai County-owned portions of Side Road and authorizing the mayor and staff to execute any and all documents to effectuate said acceptance of real property. Item D, adopt ordinance number 5063-1603, authorizing the acceptance of sewer easements from Sean Walton and Daniel and Lorena McCabe, and authorizing the mayor and staff to execute any and all documents to effectuate said easements. Item E, adopt ordinance number 5062-1602, authorizing the granting of a utility easement to Arizona Public Service Company and Arizona Corporation, and authorizing the mayor and staff to execute any and all documents to effectuate said easement.
Thank you. Would council like to pull any items from this consent?
Well, I wanted 11 right here, consent ordinance on the alarm ordinance.
So you want to pull 11A?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Entertain a motion on 11B through E.
Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance consent agenda items 11B through 11E.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilman Lamerson? Passes 7-0.
Okay. Let's look at 11A.
Mayor, I had asked that this be pulled. I didn't support the alarm ordinance when it was first offered up. I still don't support the alarm ordinance. I look at an alarm as a piece of private property, very similar to either my cane or my gun, and I don't think it's within the city's reach to charge me for permission to either own a gun or a cane in the city limits of Prescott, any more than it's within the limits of rational government to charge me to own an alarm system. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean I can just go get my gun and shoot it or thump you with my cane or cause the police people a problem with my alarm. So it has nothing to do with the enforcement part of the ordinance. It has to do with a private property rights issue for me.
Okay. Do you have any questions, or can we bring it to a vote?
Oh, you can bring it to a vote. I mean, you know, I didn't support it before, and I don't support it now
Okay.
for the same reasons.
Entertain a motion.
Mayor, move to adopt ordinance, City of Prescott alarm systems.
Second.
Motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 5-2.
All right. Moving on to item 12.
Item A, public hearing and approval for a substantial amendment to the Community Development Block Grant 2017 Annual Action Plan.
We're back. Mayor, Council, good afternoon. So this project is outlined in the consolidated plan for 2015, 2019. What it is any substantial amendment to our consolidated plan, when changes are 20% or more, will come here. So basically what this is, it's proposed changes to include a redistribution of funds. We had Bethel Development, a project that we were able to negotiate with Public Works, and Public Works ended up doing that work for us. Also, the funds were, excuse me, were part of a contingency in our 2017. Also carryover in FY 2016. And so a total redistribution funds for $202,000. So what this means is what we're proposing to change from, and then the two projects. One is US Vets for $152,000, and the other is CCJ for $50,000.
Okay.
Any questions?
Questions or comments from the council? All right, seeing none, I guess we'll entertain a motion. Thank you so much.
Mayor, I move to close public comment and approve FY 2016 and FY 2017 annual action plan substantial amendment.
Second.
Motion second, please vote.
Councilman Lamerson? Passes 7-0.
Moving on to 12B.
Award a city contract to Technology Construction Incorporated for the Zone 5676 Pump Station Upgrade Project.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Eric Bay, Public Works. This item is for the replacement of 2 water booster pump stations. The first one is the Zone 76 booster pump station. This station pumps water, domestic and fire flows, up to Bucky's Casino Prescott Resort. The second booster pump station is our Zone 56 booster station. This moves water primarily from the city zone, Zone 0, east, to where it ultimately ends up in Yavapai Hills, the ranch, Costco area of town. We publicly bid this project. We got two bids. The apparent low bidder was Technology Construction, Inc. Our project manager, Jeff Lowe, has vetted the references for this contractor, and we are recommending award. With that, I'll take any questions.
Questions or comments from the council?
Yes, I can't find my.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't find my little button. Eric, is this part of centralization?
No.
No, okay. I just wondered if, as we move forward with, this has nothing to do with the centralization.
Yeah, centralization is more on our wastewater side of utilities.
Okay.
This is a
All right.
water booster pump station.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other questions or comments, entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2018-14.
Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Moving on to 12C.
Award of city contract to carry environmental utilizing the City of Glendale's contract for household hazardous waste management services.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Will Black. I'm the Solid Waste Superintendent here at the city. What I've got before you is a contract with Carey Environmental for the collection of household hazardous waste, also known as HHW. City of Prescott's held events in the past. They were typically held in a one-day event. Residents had the opportunity to bring hazardous materials to the transfer station from 8 to 12. The problem with that is that the customers had that limited time window, and if you didn't miss the time or you weren't available, you had to find another way to get rid of your material. What we're proposing is a curbside collection or at your home collection. We're going to come to you to pick up the material. Actually, the contractor is going to do that. We'll start public outreach at the beginning of February, assuming council approves the contract. The collection will start March 5th and will run through March 23rd. We'll collect the typical household hazardous waste that's found in the home. In addition to the household hazardous waste collected by the contractor, city crews will be collecting appliances, tires, and electronics. Customers that don't have the ability to get that off the street into the transfer station will now have the ability at no additional charge to them. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Councilman Blair.
Yeah, I have a question. How are you or the private contractor going to be able to identify it from the green trash receptacles and the blue? In other words, if somebody's got a bunch of batteries, are they going door to door? How are they going to do that?
Mayor, Councilmember Blair, great question. The customers will either call in by phone or they'll sign up online, and they'll actually list the items that they have. And what we're asking the customers to do is to box the material, place it up by the garage or the carport, and label it HHW, and then we know to pick it up.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Well, I want to say this is a great thing, so thank you for putting this together. And it seems like actually it's going to save us money in the long run. It's certainly going to be better for the environment, so people won't be tossing these things out into the county somewhere. So thank you for your work on this.
You're welcome.
Councilman Good.
Will, what were the previous costs for putting on this hazardous waste event? And I understand that that was pretty much made available to almost everyone in the county who was aware of it. And in essence, we were handling and processing hazardous materials for our neighbors without any cost recovery. Is that correct?
Mayor, Councilmember Good, in 2015, the event was over $120,000, and 2016, it was about $56,000. And to answer your question about the others participating, the county did pay for the residents that came into the event. We just provided a number, they verified the addresses, and they paid a per-car fee for the
So we
residents that
tracked
came in.
that by their identification when they
Correct.
came in?
Correct.
So what you're saying is we can now have a new program that is almost personalized. All our residents who have this material can make an appointment, in essence, have it picked up, and we're going to be able to save a significant amount?
Correct. And although a new concept for Prescott, this has been used by the city of Glendale for many years. Peoria, probably a little over a year, they've used it, and Scottsdale's used it for a little while. And it works out fantastic. The feedback I got from all three cities was great.
I think this is a great program, so I support it strongly. Thank you.
Councilwoman Scholl.
I just wanted to say thank you. And, part of our strategic plan is customer service, and this is going above and beyond providing great service to our customers here in Prescott. And so I'm really excited about this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks, Will. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Any speaker cards, by the way?
No, Mayor.
All right. We'll entertain a motion then.
Mayor, I move to award city contract number 2018-128.
Second.
Motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Item 12D.
approval of site plan review in association with water service agreement for 6 detached residential units located at 578 Lincoln Avenue.
Hey, George. How are you, sir? Mayor and Council, this is a request for an approval of site plan as well as a water service agreement for a project that went through a review process by our Planning and Zoning Commission recently. As you recall, your water policy generally requires that for water service agreement, it's either associated with a subdivision plat or with a site plan approval. In this particular case, the site plan approval process is what's being used. The proposal is to take 2 adjoining lots that currently have 1 house on them, provide some additional infrastructure on the lots, move houses, recycle houses that are otherwise going to be destroyed on sites elsewhere in town onto the site to provide more affordable housing that we need in this community, especially in this particular area of the community. The applicant has proposed to rehab the existing house, add 3 houses that are relatively small at under 1,000 square feet, 2 additional houses that are slightly larger than that for the total of 6. But also in the process, because of the use of the existing lots, and the lots have been there a long time, having groundwater already allocated to them, only requiring 0.3 acre feet of alternative water to make this project happen. You have a draft water service agreement that was included in your packet. We subsequently distributed the final version of that to you. The 2 existing lots have 0.35 acre feet available to each of them for 0.7. The overall project requires 1 acre foot overall. So we're looking at a site plan approval and a water service agreement for 0.3 acre feet. If you have any questions at all, I'd be happy to answer. I will point out that the Planning Commission reviewed and approved this with a very strong recommendation. They thought it was a great process and a great effort to reuse existing structures instead of just demolishing them. We also do have the applicant here if you need questions or have questions of them.
Thank you, George. Councilman Lamerson.
Thank you. Having attended the P&Z hearings on this, et cetera, and the water issues hearings, you know, this is a great infill project, and, you know, it kind of resonates from what the will of the voters was in our general plan, and, you know, it's a very good project. I'm just sharing that with my fellow council, that it has been fully vetted, and it's a good project.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments?
Could we recognize the applicant if they would?
Vinny. Hi. My name is Vince Fornara. I know some of you I don't. I haven't met. Would like to in the future. Some are family. Steve Siska's related to me. This is my partner, Garrett Denny.
Hi.
And his father's been in the house moving business for years. And I did development pretty much since 1989 out on the Willow Lake area, and was in real estate since 1977. And we ran out of product out there, and I was kind of wondering what I might do from a housing standpoint. And I met Garrett, who had been over in Texas for Hurricane Ike, lifting and moving structures to get them up from the hurricane and the flooding over there. And so we kind of got together, and I knew his dad was a year behind me in school, so we started finding old houses where the Maverick is. We moved a couple of houses there, just through the stoplight and to the corner, and moved several others in addition to tearing down the old trailer park that was there on Miller Valley Road. And so it's a fascinating endeavor for me, and it also serves a need. Years ago, we were building some apartments. So it was 2-story, 4-unit apartment buildings in and throughout the area, from Arizona Street over into the Dameron Park area. Mm-hmm. And I've always thought that high density is not always the best. By doing this sort of a thing, we provide somewhat more of a pride of ownership, even though this would remain as one project intact. But when you have something like this, you have less turnover. People seem to be more stabilized, stay longer. and it reduces the density. This particular zoning would probably allow somewhere between 10 and 12 units, depending on how it was designed. But for us, it's been a real struggle to find lots in an area that doesn't have a deed restriction or require a new build, to be able to take these older structures and refurbish them. The Pacheco house that is now where the Mike Fan house is was one that we moved for a client over just off of Whipple Street on 2nd Street there. And all of these projects, ones we did on Ruth, the ones that we moved over on 2nd Street, 1st Street, and the Pacheco house, are literally rented before we have them completed. Same is true with one we're finishing up now over on Ruth Street. And if anybody ever wants to see anything that we're in the process of doing, I'm more than happy and proud to show you what that is. We generally move the houses at night. There's a low impact as far as traffic circulation and so on. Excuse me, and we get good cooperation from fire and police, and then of course the utility people come on board, and we move them under the lines and put them in place on a solid site-built kind of a foundation. And so one of the things that when Councilman Lamerson was at the P&Z meeting, asked me to check into was kind of the incomes of this infill type demand, you know, with our teachers, police, and firemen. And I didn't do an in-depth study of any sort, but we know several firemen and policemen and teachers. And one that had been actually taught my kids from when they were little. She was a teacher for about 17 years. And at the end of that 17-year period, she was in the $45,000 range. Starting out, it's about 30, give or take. With policemen, it's about 40 to 42,000. It may have gone up recently in that $44,000 range. But beyond our service people in Prescott, of course, there's other struggling people that are always looking for a home, and a lot of them are either retired, don't drive, or can't drive. And so this offers a way for them to be right in town and be able to walk places. This particular site happened to have a house on it that has solid bones. What I'll say solid bones, and the refurbishment part of it is not that extensive. The house we recently moved from Cortez Street over to the corner of Ruth Street was really a fabulous house, and it's a 3-month period, so it's a shorter time period to deliver. And so we think it offers a good infill kind of a need as well, as mentioned.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your dedication to these kinds of projects and infill. You're accomplishing several great objectives, and we appreciate that. I remember one morning I was riding my mountain bike up Thumb Butte Road several years ago, and Mike Shepard had you guys move his house up Thumb Butte Road, and it's fascinating to kind of watch how you do that. So it's very cool. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Councilman Good.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to congratulate both of you on this project and your efforts to find a location that would fit, find some of our historic housing stock and being able to repurpose that and put it on these lots to create more affordable housing, especially with infill, so we don't have controversy over water allocation and congestion when we talk about some of these developments on the periphery of the city. So the more we can do this, I think it just benefits the neighborhood, it benefits the community overall, and it's something we need to encourage. So thank you very much.
Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve Site Plan S117-005 and Water Service Agreement WSA 17-026 for 6 detached residential units on 2 adjacent combined lots, including 1 existing structure and 5 proposed relocated structures at 378 Lincoln Avenue.
Second.
Motion second, please vote.
Jim.
Passes 7-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you all. Moving on to 12E.
Adopt Resolution Number 4421-1630, supporting an Arizona House Joint Memorial, requesting the United States Congress to allow the United States Department of Transportation provide additional essential air service, specific waivers for the 1,500 flight hour training requirements for commercial pilots.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Tyler Goodman from the City Manager's Office. You just heard what this resolution does. It supports an Arizona House Joint Memorial that's being sponsored by Representative Noel Campbell. And it hasn't been introduced yet, but will be very soon. And it's essentially requesting that Congress allow for more EAS-specific waivers to communities and the airlines that serve these communities. This is an effort that was brought mostly by Councilman Good, and we've worked with Jesse Baker, Barry Aarons, and our city manager to get things rolling on this, and it's come together very quickly. Kind of a background on this is that following a flight accident in 2013, the U.S. Congress created a requirement to increase these flight training hours from 250 hours to 1,500 hours, and that's really putting a damper on the supply of pilots that can serve these communities. And we've heard from Great Lakes and others that they're suffering a lot because of it. It's also a disincentive for pilots to get training at all because of the time and cost that it requires. So, in additional note, the Airport Advisory Committee has looked at this, and they're in full support of it. I've also spoken with Ken Strobeck from the League of Cities, and he's going to be sending this, once it's passed, to the National League of Cities transportation lobbyist in Washington, D.C. That'll help a lot. And we're planning on sharing this with other EAS communities around the country so that they can start a similar process from the grassroots and hopefully get something changed. With that, I will be happy to answer any questions. Jesse is here as well.
Councilman Good.
Thank you, Tyler, for getting the legislature engaged on this idea. Originally, I've been involved in the Airport Advisory Committee and discussing all the proposals and plans to try to upgrade our airport, attract more capable aviation service, et cetera, and being very familiar with this 1,500-hour rule and how it was kind of arbitrarily, quite frankly, established without any real evidence to support this 1,500 hours of flight training. And not only is it degrading the reliability of air service in our smaller communities, essential air service airports, we have almost 150 around the country in over 25 states, and they're all dealing with this issue to such an extent that even our military capability is being degraded because our major airlines are enticing our military pilots out of the service because they need these skilled and experienced pilots. So rather than just focus on what we're trying to do at our airport here, I said, why don't we try to attack the problem at its source? And the source is this somewhat arbitrary FAA rule. So if we can engage all these airports around the country and all their congressional representatives to create kind of a national lobbying effort to get this changed and allow some waivers and hopefully even a reduction in these hours, since they don't seem to have any real requirement. In fact, the two pilots in this crash that occurred in upstate New York had well above the 1,500 hours themselves. So that just showed that even in response to this accident, the 1,500 hours wouldn't have made any difference at all. So I think if we can get the legislature engaged, and we now have the National Association of Cities and Towns interested in this, we might be able to solve the problem at its source and then have a better chance of getting some of our local issues handled at the airport. So thank you very much for your efforts.
Other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Goodman. Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 4421-1630.
Second.
Motion second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right, moving on to 12F.
Approval to purchase 2 each 2018 Peterbilt ASL refuse vehicles from Rush Truck Center.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Mike Carr, Fleet Services. We're requesting permission to replace two automated side load collection vehicles with two new vehicles, which would include a new Peterbilt refuse chassis and new Scorpion side load body. Solid Waste Division utilizes collection vehicles to service over 31,000 containers throughout the city, and the vehicles require regular maintenance to ensure reliability and maximum useful life. As vehicles age, key components suffer failures, requiring large service and maintenance to the vehicles. The Solid Waste Division replaces aging vehicles that are approaching 100,000 miles or exceeding 6 to 10 years in age, depending on the vehicle's life cycle. The two vehicles that we're looking to replace are vehicle number 1028, which is a 14-year-old truck, which needs extensive repairs, including a motor, transmission rebuild, and all new hydraulic hoses. Vehicle 1096 is a 12-year-old vehicle that's in need of extensive repairs, including a motor, hydraulic cylinder replacements, new packer valve, and new arm valves. The replacements were reviewed and approved by the Fleet Asset Review Board, which considers the cost of repairs exceeding the value of the vehicle, and that the vehicle is vital to the daily operation of the Solid Waste Division. Both vehicle 1028 and 1096 will be sold at the city's next scheduled auction, and the funding for these purchases is in the Solid Waste FY18 budget. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the council? Great presentation.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2018-108.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Just goes out.
I'm sorry, let's do that one more. 6.
Yeah. Okay.
Passes 6-0, sorry.
No,
Okay,
you can't.
that's fine. All right, let's see, the last item here, 12G, legislative update. Mr. Goodman again.
I'm back. This is the first legislative update of the year, and as you can see, as of January 19th, there were 727 introduced bills at the legislature, and I'm afraid to say I have not read through all of those, but we're making progress on it. We have a lot of help from the League of Cities and Barry Aarons as well. They're keeping on top of things. And I wanted to jump in with the governor's budget proposal and just a few highlights for cities and towns. That first point, you can see that there was a $99 million HERF sweep proposed in his budget, but that is being replaced with $30 million from the Highway Extension and Expansion Loan Program, so there's a net loss of $69 million from the HERF. Now again, the legislature has to come up with their proposal. They consolidate and work that out, so nothing's finalized, but that's at least what the governor has in mind. There's also a $2 million addition to Department of Revenue funding for 25 TPT auditors and collectors, which they expect to bring in or recover $25 million to the state general fund. We'll see if that occurs or not. Besides the HERF, there's no other attempts to alter state shared revenue, which is good news. And always on a note of positivity, the bills of concern, there's quite a few already, and because it's so early in the session, nothing has made a lot of progress, but these bills at least have some momentum behind them and some support that we know of. So I wanted to put them on your radar. And hopefully I don't bore you too much. We can move quickly through these. The first one, HB 2005, has to do with municipal economic development. It's really aimed at the Phoenix Sheraton Hotel, which there was a bill last year. The legislators down there don't like it, the city-owned hotel and all that that's causing for them. So what they're proposing in this bill is that the city could not exceed 25 years for a term of a lease of city-owned land or building. We would have to appoint an appraiser if a land or building being sold is valued over $50,000. And then there'd have to be, for the sale of land, city-owned land, there'd have to be a public auction with the winning bid being at least 90% of that valuation, among some other things there. So that's something interesting to keep note of. Going down, SB 1002, it has a companion bill in the House. It deals with home-based businesses. And this bill, if passed, would allow home-based business owners to do a few things. Display a temporary sign, sell or offer any goods, legal goods of course, have more than one client on the property at one time, and they'd be allowed to generate traffic, parking, or delivery that does not cause on-street congestion or substantial traffic in the area. I don't know how they would measure that. So there's a few concerns there with the city's ability to keep the character of a neighborhood as it is, while protecting the property rights not only of the business owner, but of the neighbors and in the neighborhood. And so the league is trying to work to have that balance. Oh, thank you. I need to keep an eye on that. So they're working with the sponsor on that and trying to get some middle ground to find a balance. Moving down, SB 2371 has to do with mobile food vendors, and thank you, Mr. Palladini, for your feedback on this one. We gave that to the league, and they've been using it from what we came up with. Based on how the language reads now, cities and towns would not be able to restrict how long any food truck may operate on private property. We wouldn't be able to require a special permit from the city before operating, or prohibit or restrict them from operating on public property. So they could come to City Hall, park in the parking lot as long as they wanted and sell food. They could go to a public park and stay there and sell food, basically as long as they wanted. We couldn't require spacing distances from other restaurants. That would make a lot of people very happy or upset, right? And we couldn't prohibit the use of legal parking spaces. So the angled parking downtown, for example, they could park there, block traffic, block line of sight, have some other problems with that. So there's a lot of problems with this language, and I heard that the sponsor himself is a food truck vendor.
Really?
So there's a slight conflict there, I think.
Nice.
But again, the league is working with them on that. So. And then the last one here under the concerns, HB 2207. This one would require us to record public meetings, everything but executive session. That includes boards, committees, and commissions, which would be a very large burden on the city, not only time-wise, but I think finding the money to do that from our local media center, who currently records and stores our study sessions as well as our voting sessions. And so we see that as a major conflict and a burden, and we should be able to decide locally if we'd like to record every single committee and commission meeting that there is. Some other bills of interest, HB 2097 is pension funding policies, and the league sent out a notice on this and asked for feedback, and I think most of the cities responded that they don't like being told what to do with their own financial policies internally. But the league has decided not to fight this because of the political capital it would expend, as well as the relationships that it would take. They're focusing on other things, and they see this one, I'll tell you more about it, as being able to get through with not too big of a burden. It's essentially something we're already doing, but we would have to adopt a pension funding policy for PSPRS each year, probably with the budget process. And that policy should show how we will maintain adequate assets to fund benefits payable, how to maintain stability of contributions to the system, how and when the funding requirement of the system will be met, and to define the city's funded ratio target and timeline for how to get there, and then a couple other things there. So that's something just of interest. That one did pass its committee. It'll be going to the rules and then onto the House floor. And finally, Senator Fan has agreed once again to support a budget appropriation bill for the city of Prescott dealing with the aftermath of the hotshot tragedy, and we're asking for additional funding from the state. So in 2014, we requested $5 million to be paid out over 5 years, $1 million a year, for the original 6 who were qualified for the line of duty death benefits from PSPRS. It's estimated that actual cost is going to come out to be about $8.7 million. Since then, we've had 4 more added posthumously, and that adds about another $4 million. So with all that combined with what we've paid, with what the liability is on top of that, we are asking for an additional $8 million over 8 years. And they're working on the language now, getting it through their legal counsel, and it should be introduced very soon. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments for Tyler?
I guess I have some comments. I don't know if this is time that we want to give feedback to Tyler on some issues regarding legislative issues. Certainly, again, we see it every year, but overreach into what local matters that should be decided locally. On Representative Livingston's bill, it's interesting that they want to tell us what we need to do, And I guess we're saying to them, but it's really up to you to reform this system to make it more sustainable. So, I've been listening to representatives speak. I'm not hearing a lot about what they might be doing to make the system more sustainable going forward. So just creating and talking about how we're going to be on top of the system is not going to make the system still more sustainable. So I would hope that anything that you can take back on that, Tyler, would be helpful. And I certainly appreciate Senator Fan's help on this. So.
Absolutely.
Senator Fan, have any indication how that's going? Looks like it's going to get through okay, or?
It's still, and personally, I think it's still unknown. I think because it was such a large tragedy and impacted our community and the statewide, I think it has a good chance. But it is a lot of money. $8 million over 8 years is still quite a bit. And so I think there will be some convincing, but I'm hopeful that it should get through just fine.
And the $1 million a year for 8 years is something she requested to be structured. So I think she's probably felt some people out in advance.
Yeah. It's a tough no vote. Councilman Blair.
I'd like you to go back to them and talk about 2097 and let them know we're a chartered community and we have a representative government here. And this kind of stuff is just nonsense. And this is what gets this community in trouble every single time. You know, if they want to make a law for people that don't have a constitution in the state, power to them. But when you have your own constitution, I think they should mind their own business.
Anything else? Thanks, Tyler.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. We'll end with a couple quotes from Winston Churchill. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And the second one, you have enemies? Good. That means you've stood up for something sometime in your life. This meeting's adjourned.